I did not jump into timed practice right away.
Mhm.
Because as sir says, in your untimed practice, if you have a 95% accuracy, then go to your timed practice. Otherwise, it is a waste of time. I did feel I plateaued somewhere with some topics like numbers where I could not get more than 80% accuracy in timed practices. I stopped, I course corrected, I went back, I did some untimed practices. I made sure I get a 95% accuracy when I'm doing the questions untimed, and only then move to timed practices. I think that suggestion really helps. So on the test day, no matter how much you are prepared, I felt very prepared when I went. However, some plans have a way of going awry, and that's what happened. So my system broke down in between verbal, and obviously, when you are nervous and then something like this happens, it really it wrecks your nerves.
So everyone, as I just spoke to you some time back, Tanya is here with us, and she got a 715, and she had two responses to it. That it was a low score compared to what she had been getting in her marks, but it was a decently high score compared to what happened at the test center. So we'll talk about both. Once again, do not think everybody has to be an engineer to score. I've been saying this. Some people have that notion, and this was her email, unedited, exactly what. And let's see. Someone who would have been happy with a 90 percentile score 6 months back is not happy even with a 99th percentile. This is the change that we do in philosophy and in training. So, very happy. I'm stopping the share, Tanaya. Please, could you start your camera and join us, please? Yeah, hi. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can. Am I audible?
Yes, now you are. First of all, welcome, and this is just an extraordinary achievement. No, you might have mixed feelings about it though, but honestly, it's something phenomenal. It's equivalent to a 770 score that would have been in the previous version of the GMAT, and we used to call ourselves Mission 770. So it's really matching that standard. So tell me about your prep experience first of all, and then your exam experience. I'll talk later, but generally, just take us through your journey.
Absolutely, sir. So, I think from my mail, it is very evident that I am a nervous test taker.
Mhm.
However, I'll come to what happened at the test in a while. I'll start with how I started my preparations.
Right.
So, I was part of the live session. So, goes without saying, I did the pre work, the classwork meticulously,
Mhm.
religiously. No two ways about it. For some topics, I did do the post work as well in topics where I thought my foundation is concrete, but a little more practice can help me get there even faster. Once my live session classes ended, I self evaluated. What I did was divided my prep into two main topics that I required more practice in. Number one is concepts. So identified a few materials of a few topics in which I felt like maybe I need to brush up on my concepts a little more. And number two, the second part of my prep was I identified some topics where I need to work on my timing,
Right.
because sections like DI, sections like RC, they
Mhm.
need timing. So I divided my prep into two main topics. Coming to concepts, there were topics that I felt needed conceptual understanding, something like permutation combination probability in quant. I felt like they needed a little more. I needed to go over the material again. In CR, the conditional, right? If then you identify the counterpositive. All of that I felt I needed a little more brushing up. However, there were also some topics where the concept was good enough, but I needed more practice. Something like data sufficiency, right? Like the
Mhm.
traps. You can know the topics, you can know the concepts, but you really have to know the traps, and that comes with a
Right.
lot of practice so much that in the exam you know this is a C trap, you know this is a D trap. So
Mhm.
something like that. Practice really helped me there. And then coming to the timing part, timing, the most crucial topic that I felt required timing practice was RC, and for that I practiced a lot of LSAT papers.
Right.
I made sure I sit for at least 3 hours. Sometimes 3.5 or 4, but I couldn't do more than that. But I felt 3 hours helped me a lot with the stamina, because the
One
exam is
second. 3 hours non-stop was reading comprehension, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
LSAT papers.
right.
Because I heard from so many test takers that the RC passages are really long, and that is what I experienced in a lot of official mocks as well, in a lot of portal mocks as well, that the
Mhm.
RC passages were requiring a lot more time. And what I felt was a little bit of fatigue coming in by the time there was a third RC. And if there was a fourth RC, I was definitely not doing well in that because
Right.
of the kind of fatigue that I was seeing. And so the only way I could face it head on was sit for 3 hours at a stretch. The
Right.
exam is 2 hours. If you can sit for 3 hours, that's good. That's a good start.
If you can sit
So
3 hours with RC alone, that's even better because that's the
yes,
area that requires the maximum concentration. I believe
yes,
that is what you'll endorse as well. Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, please
Absolutely.
continue.
Yes, and so identifying topics after the live test really helped me course correct. I did not jump into timed practice right away,
Hmm.
because as sir says, in your untimed practice, if you have a 95% accuracy, then go to your timed practice. Otherwise, it is a waste of time. I did feel I plateaued somewhere with some topics like numbers, where I could not get more than 80% accuracy in timed practices. I stopped, I course corrected, I went back, I did some untimed practices. I made sure I get a 95% accuracy when I'm doing the questions untimed, and only then move to timed practices. So I think that suggestion really helps. Don't
Right.
don't do time practices if you don't have a
I think I
95%
suggested
accuracy.
in the seven mistakes webinar, right? I believe that is when.
Yes,
Yes. Okay. Okay.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of topics require practice, like I mentioned, data sufficiency. So a lot of talk material helped. I don't think I had to scramble or even think about scrambling topics or material to practice, because what top gave me was more than sufficient. And if I'm being honest, I couldn't even complete everything that top gave me as a
Right.
practice.
Right.
So more than sufficient what I did for DS. I think the 436 questions of
Hmm.
traps really helped, really helped. In CR, like I said, my conditional questions weren't very strong.
Hmm.
Something like a contrapositive or an inverse, you have to really
Right.
identify that. I think the CR marathon really came through.
Hmm.
There are very, very tough conditional questions there. I think that really helped. Apart from that, like I said, LSAT papers really came through, because even in the test, on the test day, what I feared did happen. I did get 4 RC passages, but I felt more than prepared because I had done my long sittings, because I had done my LSAT papers. I was ready to take on the long passages that I got, and I felt comfortable breezing through them.
Right.
Another aspect I think really helped in my RC was awareness. So one topic that I felt I was not very comfortable with was American history. And I think the awareness passages really came through the Louisiana Purchase, the Civil War, all of that, because in the test environment, when you are already so nervous, when you see a long RC passage, obviously it deters you a little bit. But when you see a familiar RC passages, it feels like you're taking a breath of relief, that I know this passage, I can
Hmm.
do this passage well. So
Right.
awareness videos in RC passages, especially American history RC passages, that really help.
All right. All right. So this was regarding the prep. You did not talk about the IR or the data insights, but in terms of learning and practice, so describe that as well, please.
Absolutely. So, in IR, I felt like there was not much to practice except for mastery of quant and verbal. There, because data sufficiency, I felt the most crucial part where I was getting stuck was timing.
Hmm.
I felt it was an extremely lengthy section. The
Right.
questions were so long. Sometimes the question stem would take up more than half of my screen, and I had to scroll for options, right? So
Hmm.
that, and the question may not be very difficult. It is a trap. You're asked to read such long passages and understand what they're trying to say.
Hmm.
So there, I felt like the long sittings of RC really came through. Reading long LSAT passages really came through.
Hmm.
Moreover, in questions like quant, other questions which required quant, there was nothing else that required more knowledge except for the quant concepts that I already had. The quant part of data insights is not very difficult per se, right? But
Hmm.
it's just the concepts. You just need to know the concepts. There's really nothing more that you can do. Only
Right.
practice, familiarize yourself with the kind of questions, because it is a long topic. So what I did was I tried to practice as much as I can so that when I see something like a graph and the write up below the
Mm.
graph, I know I don't have to read every word to know what they're asking of me because I've practiced enough. I can know what the stem of the question would be like and just move on to the question. So I think that
Right.
saved a little bit of time, the practice part of it.
So could you pace it finally, well, the data insight section entirely, or were you not able to eventually pace? Because that's one complaint I hear from everybody almost, that pacing in DI is very, very difficult. So,
Yes, yes. So on the day of the exam, yes, I was able to pace myself. One trick that I started using after my practice was in questions where there are three questions within a question, whether that be MSR or whether it was something like table analysis, whatever it be. If one of the questions I know that I'm not getting it and maybe a little more time can help me get it, leave that. Because even if out of the three questions, if two you're getting right and one you're not getting right, the
right,
question will be marked as wrong, right? So
right,
even if one of the questions or sub questions you know you're not getting it and it's taking more time, review and move on. I felt in DI section review was my best friend because I could leave it at that, revisit it later, and that really helped me pace DI.
right.
This trick really helped me in three questions, but obviously because you have only three reviews, best not to do it for every question. But in questions where you feel like one sub question is very difficult, review and move on. Take your best guess, move on.
Okay, so tell me about your practice from the portal and then your exam experience. So, what all did you practice from the portal? I understood what you practiced and studied from the material initially given to you for quant and verbal and DI, but portal practice, yeah.
Yeah. So portal was also very helpful to me. But also that came at a little later stage of my preparations because it was timed. But
Hmm.
I think I have done every test on the portal, all 25, all the mocks. I've done everything on the portal. Really helpful because when I was practicing, I was taking up only the topics that, like I said, I had divided my topics. I was taking up the topics. Oh, I was doing well in these topics. I moved on. When you get a mixed bag question, you don't have that one track mind of, oh, these are all assumption questions or these are all weekend questions. It's a mixed bag question. So that kind of practice really helps in whether it be so I did not take a lot of topic wise tests from the portal, but I took a lot of sectional tests
Right.
because I wanted the mixed bag experience.
Hmm.
And also I felt one thing that really helped me was seeing the timer on the screen, right? Because
Hmm.
when you do it when you do time practices by yourself, obviously there's a timer, you've set it aside, but when you see the timer on the screen, it really helps you pace yourself. It really helps the to calm the nerves on the day of the exam because you will be seeing the timer. Obviously you can choose to hide the timer, but for me I went with that strategy. So the whole interface of GMAT exam, the whole idea of doing mixed bag questions, I think really helped.
And let me just ask you the other thing. What were the exact exam experience, the order, and did you? I'm sure you wrote it at the center, right? I mean, that's the general
Yes,
question. So, okay.
yes.
And what was the section order? And did you find anything unusual? Could you pace properly everything? I know the panic that happened for 10 seconds. You can describe that as well in detail. Yeah, please.
Absolutely. So my test order was first verbal, quant, break, and then DI.
Mhm.
I left DI as the last section because I knew it was a very, for me, it was a very difficult topic. So there were chances that I would probably not make some mistakes in DI. I did not want it to overflow into the remaining sections had I done it earlier. That's why I pushed it to the last as the
Right.
last section. So on the test day, and I think this is some learning that maybe all of us can take. So on the test day, no matter how much you are prepared, I felt very prepared when I went. However, some plans have a way of going awry, and that's what happened. So my system broke down in between verbal, and obviously, when you are nervous and then something like this happens, it really it wrecks your nerves. However, the administration there, it went smoothly. I called the invigilator. They came in. They moved my system. However, that move did create some nerves in me. I creating some nerves would be an understatement. I was extremely panicked. I was extremely panicked, and because verbal was my first section, um, I could literally see the letters flying. I was extremely panicked. And I think I mentioned it in the mail as well. I took a second. I took a breath. I remembered something that Sir had said in one of his webinars that verbal is not, it's nothing about the guts, it's nothing about, it's like math, right? You do your octave, you do your verification, you do your elimination, it is, and you use that concept, you use that technique, it genuinely helps, it genuinely helps because um, what I realized, most of the questions, it came down to two options. Out of
Right.
the five options, three were very easily eliminated. It came down to two. You only had to verify. You only had to verify. You, yes, avoid also came in handy, but I think verify eliminate really came in handy. You have to remind yourself it is not about the guts. So even in
Hmm.
the practice stage, if somebody is using their gut, if it is working for them, great. But I can first hand testimony, I can verify that on the day of the exam your gut can go out of the window. So then the only thing that you have to rely on, and it really helps, is the techniques. You master your techniques, you have faith in the techniques, and it really helps. So yes, I think that's what happened with me. Verbal, I took a step back. I thought about the technique I have to use, and it really did come through. Because verbal, I felt there were no surprises there. I
Okay.
had taken all the GMAT official mocks, all six of them, and at one point, I kind of knew that the next question is going to be an RC question. It was extremely predictable. It was
Mm.
extremely usual. Nothing out of the blue. So
Right.
except for the panic component, there was nothing unusual in verbal. For quant, I felt there were two questions that I felt were a little, I had not seen them earlier, but I knew it was a time trap. Like like I said in DI, what I feared in DI, I got one question in verbal like that. It was an extremely long stem, and I knew it was a time trap. Again, I reviewed, I took my best guess, I reviewed, I moved on. Did not waste my time in that because it was a ninth question. It was, I was not even 50% done with my section. I did not want to take the risk of
You're
going
talking,
through it.
this was the quant bit, right? Not
This
verbal
was
bit.
quant. This was
Okay.
quant.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So apart from that, I think nothing unusual in quant. Absolutely nothing. Even quant was very predictable. The concepts came in really handy. The traps also, beyond a point, you would know that this is the trap. You know how to deal with it. Like enough practice, enough portal mocks, enough section-wise tests. You are good to go. You can know the concepts. You can know the traps in quant. In DI, so DI again, I was obviously nervous for DI, but one thing that really came through was my data sufficiency went well. There were, so in data sufficiency, one thing that I had not seen earlier, I got a conditional reasoning data sufficiency question. It was
Right.
not a quant stem, which did throw me off, but I think I did well in that. My MSR was relatively easier
Hmm.
because the out of the three tabs of my MSR, two were just graphs, and then the third was a long stem. Obviously, they compensated it with little tricky questions, but the stem of MSR was relatively easier to read. I think
Okay.
that worked. And other than that, again, nothing unusual in DI, nothing that you would not have seen earlier, nothing that can really throw you off your feet. So yeah, I think very standard test taking.
So, okay, you, when you went in, you would have definitely expected a higher score, as you said, but eventually, when you saw at least a 715 was there, were you kind of relieved or were you not so happy?
Oh, absolutely. Because like I said, when once I started the test, I did not expect it to go well. But again, because what happens is when you answer any question, obviously you use the techniques, but there is also some assurance. Yeah, this question I've done well.
Hmm.
That went out of the window for me. I had no um, gut feeling about what is right and what is wrong anymore. I was
Hmm.
just going on autopilot on the techniques that you have taught. So I could not really gauge how the exam was going. I left it to the techniques. Keep your head down, solve one question at a time. Don't think whether this question is a hard one or an easy one, so that you know if you have done well in the past questions. That strategy doesn't work. So yeah, I could not gauge. But when I saw a 715, I was definitely ecstatic. I did not expect that once I started taking the test.
Right, right. So on the other side now, obviously this is sorted. One thing, one piece of the puzzle is sorted. What would be some of the do's and don'ts for people? I mean, how much time, first of all, should they take when they are working? How should they manage their time? Number one, and number two, I know sometimes the preparation for some people can be very prolonged and inconsistent. So whatever tips you have, good, bad, do's, don'ts, just tell everything that you would like to.
Yeah, I think most of us who are taking the GMAT would be working. And sometimes it would get I would be very tired, wouldn't want to come back from office and then pick up my books. I think one thing that really helped me are these, it's very surreal to even speak of it, these videos. Because I remember Sir posts such videos at least once a week. You see these videos, you see people who have long working hours and then are still doing the practice. And that's what it takes, right? Some motivation, some sort of motivation. So don't miss out on practicing or studying any day, because I think that's what helped me. Even if I had a long day at work, come back, take the topic which you think is like it's a relief to you. Take some topic like that. For me, it was quant, the problem solving of quant. If I didn't feel like doing it, I would solve quant, but I would do something or the other. Maybe not 3 hours, maybe 2 hours on the days that I don't
Hmm.
feel well, but such days were very few, like because I had to get it done. So yeah, I think that's the only thing. And like I said, between timed and untimed practices, you cannot start timed practices if you have not mastered your concepts. Because let's think about it, there are only two ways you can go about it, right? You can either know your concepts very well, or you can rely on your gut. And like I said, you can rely on your gut, you can do very well in your practice exams, but there's a very high chance that goes out the window on the day of the test. So please master your techniques before you move on to time practices. Like Sir says, make sure you have 95% accuracy in untimed and then move to time. I think these are the only two, I think, my two
Right.
cents I would like to give on this.
Right, right. And you went through the awareness videos, generally speaking, as well. I mean, apart from knowing it for reading comprehension, you said that it was also a relief in some sense sometimes. So as I could gather. So what was it like? I mean, just tell that as well. If you could go through even half of them or some of them, just tell that as well. So yeah.
Yes. So I'll be honest, I could not go through any of the KTW videos, but I went through most
Mhm.
of the awareness videos. And yes, actually, like, on days when you don't feel like studying, or on days when I would feel like just watching a show or something, I would make sure I go onto YouTube or I go onto the awareness site, watch an awareness videos, because they were also extremely interesting to watch. Like I said, the topics which you took on Louisiana Purchase or Civil War,
Mhm.
because I was not very well versed with them, I felt like watching those videos helped me with my studies and with the kind of relief that I'm looking at after my work hours or something like that.
Right.
So awareness videos really come in, and you can, or you should probably, it will help if you substitute your YouTube watching time or something with those awareness videos. That really helped me. Because it you don't feel like studying, watch an awareness video, it will help you in topics that you're not aware. Because trust me, when you get such an RC topic in your exam which you are aware of, it really helps. It's like a sigh of relief. I know this
Right.
topic, I can deal with this topic.
And what's the plan now that you'll be applying this year, or you want to wait? I mean, what exactly are you planning with applications?
I'm planning for our round one this year.
Right.
So like Kashif spoke in one of the videos, I am already self-reflecting on what my story is going to be like, what I'm going to pitch to the colleges. So I am at that stage already. I
Super.
have so yeah, I think like I'm all prepared to
Yeah.
start applying now.
So keep in touch in that case. Do get in touch when you have something concrete about your story and essays and so on. And please
Absolutely.
just keep up the great work. I mean, one step of the puzzle, one piece is gone, and I'm sure with the background that you have, the other shouldn't be any difficult if you write your essays well, and everything else will fall in place. Thanks for your time today, Tanya, and all the very best then. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank
Right,
you, sir. All the best,
right.
everyone.
Yeah. Bye
Bye.
bye.